Morning, everybody. Welcome to the joint Metro North and Long Island Committees meeting. Today is Monday, October 23rd. Let's start with our public comments, please.
Good morning. We have nine members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Iris Kelly, followed by Kara Good.
Okay, my name is Kelly. I just speak about the railroad today. There's issues about making connections and also about the setup of how the railroad looks. Track 6 and 7, you always had kiosks for the Long Island Railroad train time. You took that out, might put advertisement for it. Don't make sense. People need to see that. People of my height. And also we have the trains. Why take off trains from track 3 and move to 11 12? Don't make sense to me either. That should be something for Grand Central's express train, going back and forth between trains and planes and all that stuff. But it was always easy for the connection between Brooklyn and Manhattan, between Long Island and Brooklyn. We always had that connection between track 2 and 3, but now you took that away. Make 11 12 don't make sense to us to do that. We shouldn't have that right to that same way we were before. And other many things that happen there. And for that nighttime, it's make a trip going up and over a big trip from going from track 2 up to 11 and 12. It don't make sense either. You have to think about other people who have disabilities and things like that. We don't always have time to get off one train, go up and over, get to another train. It has to be more convenient than that. And then for other things going on too, let me see. That also pertains to assessor ride. That's going to be a little later, but that's about where they had people should be I'll get the rides where they have to be without being interrupted with so many rides in between. VGM has they set up the rides coming, maybe this one, that one, that one be at the same time, but the pickups, drop-off, they don't match at all. Where they're supposed to go. I get in, I leave to get 8 o'clock pick. I go 7 o'clock to be in by 8:30. I'm getting 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. I have to charge my time. I don't have this disability where I can walk in and say, oh yeah, that's my ticket, I'm not using my late. No, they charge us what time. Every walk in that door, I'm losing my time. I originally had over 100 hours. Now I'm down to like 30 hours left. And this is not right. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kara Good, followed by Bruce Hine.
Good morning. I'm Kara Girl, Planning and Advocacy Manager at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. First, we're excited to welcome new acting Long Island Railroad President Rob Free and look forward to continuing to work together. We're happy that Kathy Rinaldi will continue to offer guidance on best practices across the two railroads and hope to see increased cooperation and standardization between Metro North and the Long Island Railroad. We also want to thank the Metro North workers who got service up and running after mudslides this weekend. With Metro North and the Long Island Railroad under one roof, riders can finally transfer between all of the MTA's modes, but it's time for fair policy to make it easier and more seamless for them to do so. While we're not happy that Omni rollout to the railroads has been delayed, the extra time presents a golden opportunity to rethink how fares and ticketing work around the region. PCAC recently released a report entitled Integrate, Simplify, and Omnivate on ways the MTA can best use Omni rollout to create a more equitable, integrated, and accessible transit network. While progress has been made to better connect the railroads, their fare systems still operate separately and differently from one another, which is confusing for riders. Some key recommendations include creating a weekly city ticket with transfers to subways and buses, starting with the feasibility and field study in 2024, ensuring that riders are always charged the best fare available and automatically applying discounts, standardizing and expanding discounts, including developing a discounted 10-trip peak ticket to replace the loss of the 20-trip, and ensuring that senior and disabled fares apply to all tickets, bringing fair fares to the Long Island Railroad and Metro North and expanding eligibility, expanding Omni to other regional transit and micromobility providers, expanding transfer options around the system, and eventually creating a common cost per mile for fares across the Long Island Railroad and Metro North to better unify the MTA region. Installing Omni without improving and simplifying fares would be a missed opportunity. If we can't have through running, let's at least do through ticketing. A more integrated transit system is possible, and now is the time to rethink fares and ticketing so that Omni can live up to its name, One Metro New York. Thank you.
The next speaker is Bruce Hine, followed by Jason Anthony Pinero.
Good morning. I'm Bruce Hain with RailNYCAccess.com. That's my website where you can find out more. I found that my FOIL request about White Pot Junction and why your new neighbor has decided to encroach so far on the right-of-way that you had to put in sheet piles and tear away part of the embankment. And you know, there's a bridge there at White Pot where the Rockaway Beach branch diverges, and you're probably undermining the beam on the north side. So you know, that'll eventually drag the rest of it down. I don't know if that's what you want, but it's a possibility if you undermine the embankment there. They didn't answer my question, or it was a plausible answer, and it didn't come from a lawyer because I said it would be okay if you just tell me why. But see, I know, because not 750 feet from there at 63rd Drive, you've got big transformers right in the 6th track on the northern right-of-way. I mean, there's bridges all along there. You've got 5 sets of bridges with 6 tracks. And now you're running double the number of trains. It says you're putting twice as much mileage on the trains and serving only 70% of the people you were in 2019. So, you know, that's the way it goes. Thanks.
The next speaker is Jason Anthony Pinero, followed by Michael Cohen.
It's Jason Anthony, plain and simple. Good morning, everyone. Jason Anthony here once again. I want to start welcoming Rob Free to his new role. Rob, I wrote the railroad on September 29th, and let me tell you, you passed the test. It proved that the Long Island Railroad works during the most unexpected times during my time being back in New York. My day started at Atlanta Terminal, Brooklyn, to Jamaica. Then from there, I decided to head east to Garden City. Then I did the same thing back, but instead of going to Brooklyn, I went to Penn. But one thing, Rob, that I want you to, let's say, improve for future events like this, communication. Because when I boarded a train from Jamaica to Penn, the conductors weren't aware about the cross-honoring between New York City Transit and the Long Island Railroad. Let's see, because in the middle of November, we're going to have a very big planned service change. And regarding the November schedule, I'm glad to see 2 a.m. trains going to Brooklyn, but we want to see the reverse, more p.m. trains through Brooklyn, and it's sad to see reductions on weekend service on the main line. Please reconsider that, because it could affect the people that could potentially go to Roosevelt Field Mall to do their holiday shopping. So I'll see you guys later.
The next speaker is Michael Cohen, followed by Matthew Buchheis-Heitland.
Hi, I'm Michael Cohen. With the introduction of East Side Access and Penn Station Access, it is now possible to take trains Long Island Railroad or Metro North to either Penn Station or Grand Central Terminal.
Can you speak
Although-
closer to the mic, please, so we can hear you?
Although with the introduction of Penn Station access and East Side access, it is now possible to take either a Long Island Railroad or Metro North to Penn Station or Grand Central Terminal. When the project was completed, there was going to be integrated fare between the two systems. You could buy a ticket from one station in Long Island Railroad and travel to another in Metro North, or Metro North to Long Island Railroad on a ticket from either one. And it's still impossible to buy a ticket for a different railroad from a different machine. Like, you can only buy a Long Island Railroad ticket from a Long Island Railroad machine, or a Metro North Railroad ticket from a Metro North Railroad machine. What happened to integrating fares and integrating the tickets? Like, that should be done, like, soon. And I think that they missed a great opportunity to combine the two tickets and fares and zones. So I think they should get on that. And I also think that it would be great to have Penn Station access sooner rather than later. And I don't know why the 20 trip was eliminated, but I think it should be brought back.
The next speaker is Matthew Buchheis Highland, followed by Ian Matthews.
For the record, it's actually Bucky's. Good morning. I'm Chairwoman Lopez, Chairman Chu, President Rinaldi, and welcome aboard to the newest Long Island Railroad interim president, Robert Freed. You're going to do a great job, I can tell you that much. Okay. On Wednesday, October 11th, I spoke at a New Jersey Transit meeting virtually about a possible combo ticket. For example, I live in Long Island by the Seaford train station. For example, if I want to go to Connecticut, it would only be $18.50 one way. But if I wanted to go to, say, Newark, New Jersey for like a New Jersey Transit Board meeting, it would cost me $32. So once again, I will lecture this question for you. Will you maybe consider, when you consider the budget, to work with the New Jersey Transit Corporation on a possible combo ticket for the transit? It would help people save money, and I know all of you like to save money, so I hope you would consider that as well. Thank you. God bless you. Good day. Ms. Frias, over to you.
Our next speaker is Ian Matthews, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Good morning. My name is Ian Matthews, and I'm a rider of the Metro North Railroad and sometimes Long Island Railroad. Now, the Metro North is still not really seeing any improvement as I looked at the schedule. We still don't really have half-hourly service on the Harlem and Hudson lines during weekday off-peak hours. And the Harlem line really needs it because the trains are getting more crowded during the weekday midday hours. And you need to consider bringing back the two-stop express trains that start at North White Plains in the morning rush that stop at White Plains and Harlem and Grand Central because the 753 and the 724 trains out of North White Plains that make all stops at Scarsdale are dangerously overcrowded. And also, for the Long Island Railroad, I was unsatisfied this weekend how you had no westbound trains stopping at Kew Gardens, Forest Hills, and Woodside while there was construction happening on the subway, making it no fast way of going into Manhattan. That's unacceptable. You need to consider adding bridge plates so that at least riders can get to where they need to go quickly enough. And also, you should reconsider the November schedule changes about Ronkonkoma trains having to stop skipping Mineola. They should all stop there. No trains should be skipping Mineola. That's a pretty major stop. All right? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Alita Dupree.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza, president of Passengers United, and we're getting a lot of complaints from residents who live in Mineola, passengers who use the service there. You guys on weekends in the new train schedules that start in November, you've eliminated 36 trains on the weekends at Mineola. That is unacceptable. And also, you guys, when y'all built third track, you guys made a promise that you would have half-hourly service at Maryland Avenue, at Westbury, and all these other stations. Now it's going to be hourly service starting in November with the November schedule changes. And on the Hempstead branch, you've cut service as well. That is ridiculous, and it's unacceptable. And we're very, very upset about this. Rob Free, we're counting on you. We're counting on the team of the Long Island Railroad to please change this, and also, to restore the service so it is half hourly at Mineola and half hourly at all these other stations. And in terms of the Suffolk County bus redesign that's starting next week, you guys need to be in communication with Suffolk County so that you can get the correct routes on your website and on your literature. And that's going to be a mess. I can tell you now, I've looked at it. It's not good. But Rob Free, we're counting on you. We want to meet with you. And we have a lot of ideas to make the Long Island Railroad better. So we hope that you're going to be a better president. And maybe, you'll even be better than Philip Penn. We're hoping. But again, guys, thank you so much and have a good one.
Our next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by Andy Kita.
Thank you. Good morning to the co-chairs of the Joint Committee. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her team folds today. I really enjoyed my time in person with you all last month, and meeting some of you and being able to use the railroads quite often. Probably about half the days I was in New York, I used one of the two railroads. And I'm looking forward to hearing of your performance reports today and seeing how much closer we are getting to the pre-COVID ridership level. I know that weather has not been favorable on the weekends lately. Hopefully we will see more people coming in, and fare revenue looks like it's favorable. And how do we continue the work to build the best railroads that we can? I did see in the agenda about land and easement acquisition in the Bronx for 3 stations to help us get to full ADA accessibility. So it's very important that we work on that, and hopefully we will complete these acquisitions and be able to go into construction, because there are many who can't climb stairs, and sometimes I'm not having a good day. So we want to work on that. And I am hoping to see Omni on the railroads. I think about when I went to JFK a few weeks ago, and I used the subway to get to Jamaica, and Omni is now on the air train. But the railroad is a common way that people get to Jamaica to get to the airport. So I hope we have our plans and schematics in place for that. I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Andy Quito.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good morning. I'm back again after a long hiatus. And once again, you guys didn't let me in last month at the board meeting. Why would you let somebody like John Mitchell go in? And by the way, this guy talked say insult words on his YouTube video last night about the schedules. But yeah, let's get into the Long Island Railroad schedules. I think you made a mistake cutting some Ronkonkoma trains. out of Grand Central Madison on the weekdays evenings, which is completely unacceptable. I've been on those trains too, and they're very crowded. And and let's talk about the West Hempstead branch. I know nobody's going to be addressing this because they don't care, But between 6:38 and 7:30, there's like almost a 1 hour gap in westbound service during the morning rush, which I think is completely unacceptable. There needs to be a train like around 6:55 at least, 6:55 and maybe 7:10 for people on the West Hempstead branch. Going either to Atlantic Terminal and then another train could go to Penn Station. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. And then we gotta talk about the homeless situation at Rockville Center. There was a lot of panhandling because I was there yesterday with a friend. We went to the bar and drink. But yeah, there's a lot of homeless. They're harassing people for money. So we need more MTA police pulling out of Mineola Station, and putting them in Rockville because it's getting really, really bad. And finally, just you gotta let everybody speak because the people are entitled to spread their thoughts on the Long Island Railroad, and you guys didn't let me in. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say for this month. Thank you guys for letting me speak, and get John Mitchell arrested. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Chair, that concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, Ms. Frias, for your assistance, and thank you to this morning's speakers. We're moving on to the approval of meeting minutes from September 18th. All of you should have had a chance to review them in your board packets. Are there any corrections or omissions? If not, I move to approve the meeting minutes. Second? Thank you, Co-Chair Chu. All in favor? Minutes are approved. Kathy, Rob, are there any changes to the work plan?
There are no changes to the Metro North work plan.
No changes along Long Island Railroad work plan.
Thank you very much. I know that this has been a very busy weekend for MTA staff, especially in the Hudson line, and I know Kathy will be talking more about it, but I do want to thank you and your staff for your hard work, working around the clock to restore service this morning, and also for coordinating with Westchester County with all the things that we had to go through on Saturday morning. So without further ado, Kathy, President's report.
Thank you, Blanca. Yeah, this weekend's event kind of overtook my script a little bit. So as you all know, at roughly 9:45 on Saturday morning, we sustained a pretty sizable mudslide along the Hudson line in the vicinity of Scarborough Station. There you can see the pictures here. Behind a private residence, there were 3 separate retaining walls that failed, presumably because of the heavy rains that we've been experiencing over the course of the last several weeks. This knocked out service on all 4 lines of the Hudson line in the vicinity. The debris came down, and you can see it along the tracks here. So over the course of the weekend, Metro North mobilized, working very closely with contractors that were retained by the homeowner to be able first to stabilize the slope above, as well as to remove debris from the 2 tracks closest to the river with a view towards reestablishing service for this morning. And I'm proud to say that that was achieved. Over the course of the weekend, the service plan was modified to provide for a bus bridge between Croton, Harmon, and Tarrytown stations. So we were able to operate hourly service both above and below the area that was affected by the mudslide, with the bus bridge, in between. So as I said, the Metro North forces were out there over the weekend and were able to clear the 2 tracks closest to the river and restore them to service very early this morning. We developed a service plan over the weekend, and we are running mostly normal service over the Hudson line today. A couple canceled trains in the morning, a couple canceled trains in the afternoon, but by and large, the service is pretty much back to normal. It would be remiss of me not to give a tremendous shout out to everybody who is out there over the weekend working so hard to be able to bring service back. Special shout out to Steve Kilpert, who managed the whole effort out there. I don't think he slept in 4 days. So thanks to Steve, thanks to that team for really doing everything that they did to bring the service back. I want to also give a shout out to the support that we got really across the board. MTA C&D has been our partners from the very beginning. Thanks to Jamie and his team for the support that they've given us. New York City Transit provided some buses for the bus bridge, thanks to New York City Transit, Westchester County, the town of Mount Pleasant, the MTA police, the town of Mount Pleasant police. I mean, it really was an all hands on deck effort all weekend long. So we're really, really appreciative of the support that we got. And now the work turns to the other two tracks. That's going to be a bit of an effort. There's still a lot of work to be done out there. So my expectation is we'll be probably running the current service plan, I would expect, for the rest of this week as we continue to work to stabilize the slope above, to clear the debris off the remaining two tracks, and get the railroad back to normal. So before going to the rest of my remarks, maybe I'll pause here for any questions.
Yes, Mr. Zuckerman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Kathy, as I texted with you and Justin on Sunday, impressive that you got service up so quickly. Not a simple feat. And as I rode the train this morning and saw the after effects, I saw three gentlemen wearing hard hats with a confused look on their faces about what to do. I could acknowledge how hard it was. There's a wider question, and we've raised it before, and climate change is undeniable. Yeah. I myself am, I wouldn't say kicking and screaming on the science, but I am kicking and screaming on recycling. I barely do. My garbage man throws it all the same stuff in the same place anyway. But that does not make the situation we're all facing significant and ultimately catastrophic for all kinds of infrastructure, ours included. I'd like to understand, and we don't do it in this session, of course, but we have been the victim of all kinds of related topics, mudslides and other storms, tree debris, waters rising, all kinds of things that continually affect our ability to provide service and frankly affect our cost structure. And I don't believe we have adequately reframed the P&L, so to speak, to account for all these pieces. I think we just talked about this last month, maybe. Yeah. So I'd like to understand how we could go about having a more systematic examination of our greater trouble spots. I would describe it almost as a safety analysis, but in terms of climate, not physical safety. I wonder if we have a better sense of where places are where they're more apt to see things like this happen along the right of way. Whether we have it in the book and we just need to be educated, or we haven't been able to do that because it's not part of what we do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. But it would be good for this committee and for this organization to have a better assessment of where we think the trouble spots are across our lines, and whether we need to actually reframe our financial statements so we are prepared more clearly for these things. Because I know you find ways to make it happen every time. You do an incredible job of making sure we respond. But I think having a better identification of what those costs could be and where those places are would be helpful. I have a client who used to say to me that if it's not in the P&L, it doesn't exist. And so we may even need a line item for climate effect. That is something we are looking forward to because we expect it's going to happen on an annual basis. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want me to speak to that, Neil, or? Just very, very briefly. We had the 20-year needs presentation a couple weeks back, and Hudson Line resiliency was actually specifically called out as something that's going to require capital investments going forward. I think one of the challenges is it's not just one thing, right? So it's a tidal river, the Hudson, so there are low-lying areas that routinely will get tidal flooding. We've already addressed some of that with some of the Sandy money, so we elevated the substations at Riverdale and at Tarrytown, and we encased some of the cable, and so we've gotten to work on some of those issues. But then you have the issues with respect to the steep embankments on the other side of the river. So we saw those effects near you in Garrison over the summer, and now with respect to this particular incident. And then there's the entirely, I guess maybe not separate, but related issue of stormwater runoff, which is not unique to the Hudson Line. I mean, we see that routinely on the Harlem Line. We saw it a couple of weeks back in Mott Haven. So there's a number of climate-related challenges that we continue to see on the railroad that will be addressed, as part of the capital program going forward. But I completely understand your concerns about the P&L, both on the operating side and the capital side, as we struggle to be able to provide service in the face of these increasing events. There's no question about that.
Yes, Ms. Valdivia.
Thank you. So in order to build a little bit on Commissioner Zuckerman's question. Can you just remind us again, when there is this kind of emergency, when there's a mudslide and all the hours and stuff, from an accounting perspective, it's for the first time ever we're facing, zero deficits until, I guess 2027.
Yeah.
But these emergencies will happen. So in
Yeah.
this kind of more, I guess, climate emergency category, are there any reimbursable opportunities here, or how has the MTA have dealt with it in the past, and how will it think about dealing with it in the future?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a complicated question, right? I mean, so the easiest thing to do is just set up a billing number. So we bill to a particular number. We track the expenses associated with the particular incident. We do that all the time, whether it's snow or something like this. So we open up a number, we charge to that number. And then how do we get reimbursement for that? Are the expenses capitally eligible? Are they not capitally eligible? Is there federal funding that we can get? Is there insurance that we can get? So it really depends upon the incident, the location of the incident, the type of the incident. And, there may be, multiple sources of funding to be able to, recover the expenses associated with a particular incident.
And I guess I'm asking, and maybe this isn't the right committee to ask that, maybe
Yeah.
it's Finance
It might be
Committee, Neil,
Finance.
but as
CPC.
we know that there's a lot of federal funding available,
Mm-hmm.
but we know that all of that funding is pretty capital focused. When it comes to, we're going to see more and more of these type of emergencies and operating expenses associated with the emergencies, are there opportunities or partnerships that we can develop? And I'm sure, I guess the question is there systematic thinking about ensuring that we're going for funds that are maybe, climate emergency funds that are available? And does that even exist?
Yeah, I mean, we've already made
Yeah.
some applications for federal funding with respect to the Mott Haven situation as
Great,
well as the
okay.
Hudson Line. So there
Thank
are
you.
programs available. But I think to your point, I don't know, good or bad, it's not just a Metro North issue, right? I
Right.
mean, this is an issue that really cuts across the MTA. So we can certainly speak about it at this
Yes.
committee, but there probably needs to be a broader conversation as to how the entire MTA is addressing these climate concerns. And, it was addressed as part of the 20-year needs. It's
Yeah.
expected that's going to be a major theme with respect to the capital program conversation going forward.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Bergman first, and then Mr. Glucksman.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what Neil said, that we should try and do an assessment of potential trouble spots, because it's not just Metro North. There are a few,
everywhere, yeah.
there are a few spots on a Long Island Railroad that kind of iffy. So maybe if we can get a chance to get a look at that in advance, hopefully maybe we can see something that we can do to remediate it before it actually happens.
Yeah, again, thanks for getting service back. With opening an account number for billing, I know there's going to be some looking at recovery of funds from the homeowner and whatever other insurances are available. So public will know that we're not going to, hopefully not get stuck with the whole bill for all the millions it's going to cost to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we will have whatever legal remedies we'll have. It's probably not appropriate to speak about that here, but sure, of course.
Mr. Mack has a comment.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to divert some of the funds from the capital program into future problems that we could foresee, like that rock slide, mudslide, catastrophic snow. As you know, or if you don't know, we haven't spent all of the capital program money from 3 years ago, from 2 years ago, and from this year. So there's money around. It's just a matter of diverting it to make sure that everyone's safe.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, not for nothing, but we just did a 20-year needs assessment. So I'm not asking you to do it again, but and this area here is an area, well, first of all, big props to the guys that put it, and ladies that put it back to, or women, that put the, that put the pieces back together over the weekend. And now that those guys worked 72 hours straight, get your ass back to the job so you can do your regular work week now. But where does this, I mean, Metro North Territory has some particular issues with bridges and drainage. Having been a very old layout initially, that things were different. And this is not even going into that climate stuff, where we've known we have these problems for a long time, just as we've known the Park Avenue Tunnel was a problem for a very long time. But where does this particular area, which, you know, anybody that rides it knows, I mean, you feel like you're underwater sometimes going down the Hudson line. So where does that particular area go? It's my first question. Where does that particular area fall in the food chain as described in the 20-year needs assessment relative to the many, many other areas where we need work too?
Oops. I can't speak to this particular area, near Scarborough Station as to whether, it was not a known area, as distinct from other areas along the Hudson. But, with respect to that segment, how it sort of matches up against other spots on the Hudson line, I'd have to get back to you on that, Norman. But I'd say a couple things, back to what I was saying a little while ago. There's different risks, right? So there's the kind of the sea level inundation risk. We see, problems in Ossining. We see problems in the Bronx sometimes with that. Then there's the, the risks associated with the steep embankments, which is kind of what we were dealing with here. We do have a regular retaining wall inspection program. We inspect retaining walls every 3 years. We had inspected this retaining wall, a couple of years back. So there is a routine maintenance program and inspection program with respect to the retaining walls that are out there. But I do think part of the challenge with respect to the Hudson line and the railroad generally is that the risk is not just one risk, right? It's the inundation risk, it's the mudslide risk, it's the stormwater risk. We routinely see flooding in the Bronx because of some of the conditions that we saw on September 29th with respect to the capacity of the sewer system in the city. So there's a lot on our plate and a lot on, the collective plate of the MTA with respect to how we address, identify these risks and fund them in the capital program. But to your point, we had the 20-year needs presentation a couple weeks back, and this was specifically called out as something that we know we're going to have to address in the upcoming capital program as well as future capital programs.
Thank you, but I have another question too, which is, these pictures started coming in my phone like, Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that shocked me, not shocked me, but I find it a stunning juxtaposition is the private property immediately abutting with a beautiful view of the river.
Yeah, spectacular.
And so closely abutting our property with a fairly new building. And, I have to scratch my head, living in Brooklyn where it's almost impossible to build anything, anywhere, anytime. Up there, how the hell did they get the right to stuff a swimming pool spitting distance from our right-of-way? That sort of shocked me. And, it's also the juxtaposition of the private success and the public failure or the public weakness to deal with the infrastructure. But to what extent do these pain-in-the-ass bystanders, as they were referred to in, The Godfather, how do these pain-in-the-ass bystanders affect our ability to dig in and solve this sort of long-term structural problem?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have put the question quite that way, but I mean, we've got private landowners who, 2 years ago we were talking about that slope in Yonkers, right near Greystone Station, and there's a condo up there, and coordinating with the city of Yonkers and the condo owners. So there are unique challenges that are posed when the railroad is operating so close to where people live, and a lot of those developments happened in parallel with the history of Metro North, right? So it's an ongoing dialogue and an ongoing problem as we address these challenges along the right-of-way. There's no question about that. And I don't think there's any one answer. It really depends upon the nature of the property use. Is it municipal? Is it private? How old is the retaining wall? So this is something that we're going to have to, address not just as part of the capital program, but going forward based upon the outcome of this incident. The one thing that I wanted to say, Norman, that I should have answered a little while ago, is that, because it was part of your first question, is that after the Ida incident, we repaired that culvert in Dobbs Ferry. We do have a hydrology study that was undertaken to be able to identify other problem culverts so that we can prioritize where we need to make those repairs and address some of the flooding conditions that we see along the Hudson line.
Mr. Mack?
Yeah, good point that you brought up. While I was chair many years ago at Long Island Railroad, we faced this issue with commercial properties and so forth, and we made them build a retaining wall at their expense.
Yeah, I think, there are legal and engineering issues that we're going to need to tackle as we move forward in terms of figuring out how we're going to address this problem going forward. There's no question about that.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving forward.
Now we'll resume our normal programming. Okay, here we go. All right, so I've got a classics quote for you, Neil. The philosopher Heraclitus once said that the only constant in life is change. Okay, there you go. And so after my 19-month stint as interim president of the Long Island Railroad, we are now back to two separate agency presidents. I look at my time back at the Long Island Railroad with a lot of fondness and gratitude. Very happy to see so many Long Island Railroad people here today for the special presentations. And I'm so proud to have led Long Island Railroad during a period of such historical transformation. Long Island Railroad customers are in great hands with acting President Rob Free, who's now in the press every 5 minutes. He's got a passion for the railroad, a passion for Long Island, and I wish him nothing but the best as he assumes this new role. A little bit about ridership. To start, post-Labor Day, Metro North ridership bounced back from the traditional slowdown that we see over the summer months. We set a COVID-era one-day ridership record on Tuesday, September 19th. Because of the crazy rain that we've been having, our ridership dipped the last 2 weeks in September with the untimely end of the Yankee season and then the rains that we had on September 29th. I'm going to recap the service issues caused by the remnants of Tropical Storm Ophelia a little bit later in the operations report. Then as we moved into October, ridership rebounded rather nicely, though we had more rain on October 7th and 14th, which affected our leaf peeper ridership on the first two Saturdays of the month. But the brisk and seasonal autumn weather on both of those Sundays led to strong ridership on our extra Hudson Line trains and the second busiest Sunday that we've had post-COVID on October 8th. Our upward trend continued the following week with the best Monday through Wednesday ridership we've seen, October 16th through 18th since the pandemic, including our first Monday over 200,000 riders. On October 29th, we'll restore several half-hourly weekend morning trains and afternoon and early evening trains between Poughkeepsie and Grand Central, which is the result of the Upper Hudson Line track work. That, as I said, has been overtaken by events a little bit. I'll have to see how that jibes with our new schedule, but that's our intent for later on in the fall. Also effective October 29th are changes to the New Haven Line trains serving Connecticut. This was the topic of some conversation earlier this year. Connecticut state budget process, Connecticut State DOT had asked us to reduce the number of trains serving the state on the New Haven Line in a way that would minimize inconvenience to their constituents and our customers, but that would reflect current ridership patterns. After some months, we agreed on a schedule that suspends one round trip between Grand Central and New Haven on Mondays through Fridays, along with one midday round trip on the New Canaan branch and one late evening nighttime round trip on the Danbury branch. In addition, on Fridays, there will be 10 suspensions with alternate service provided by a mixture of combo trains and diversions to existing trains, which operate ahead of or after the suspended trains. Once again, this service adjustment in Connecticut has no effect on New Haven Line service within New York State. Connecticut DOT also announced that following their recent service and fare equity analysis, fare increases for Metro North services in Connecticut only have been approved and will take effect on Wednesday, November 1st. I made a reference a little while ago to our leaf peeper trains. They started on Saturday, October 7th. 5 leaf peeper trains operate on Saturdays, 4 on Sundays to take New York City Metro riders to Fall Fun along the scenic Hudson River Valley. They're going to run through November 5th or until the end of the fall foliage season. This popular fall service makes it easy for customers to take advantage of Hudson Valley Restaurant Week. I was out with Westchester County Executive George Latimer celebrating the return of this event. Runs for 2 weeks between October 30th and November 12th. There's 142 participating restaurants. About 50 of them are within walking distance of Metro North Station. So we certainly encourage our customers take a Metro North train to enjoy the great cuisine in the Hudson Valley. Beautiful though those leaves may be, at least while they're still on the trees, the fallen leaves can wreak havoc on service during the fall months, as we've talked about before. I'm actually going to be delivering the operating report this month, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Lookout Pectin, I like that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. Over the past couple of years, both commuter railroads have undergone something of a technological renaissance. Now our Train Time app allows you to buy tickets, check for available seating, and track your train all in one place. The next step that we're taking is for our visually impaired customers. It's a function and a feature known as NaviLens. It's a new system of intelligent digital markers that, when scanned, will read signs out loud and provide audible train arrival information to help blind and low vision riders navigate the station. Some 50 colorful QR-type codes have been installed at our White Plains station, which is the site of a 6-month pilot program. The Metro North Stations Department has worked collaboratively with NaviLens to develop the markers and then run internal testing from October 12th to the 18th, after which external testing was conducted with the help of Guiding Eyes for the Blind and the Westchester and Dutchess County Accessibility Task Force. We await the findings of this pilot, and we want to thank all of our partners and advocates for helping us test this promising new technology. On October 5th, I joined Chairman Jano Lieber and executive leadership at Grand Central Madison to announce that frontline employees throughout the various MTA agencies would be wearing pink ribbons all October to support the fight against breast cancer. 4,000 ribbons were distributed evenly between Metro North and Long Island Railroad, and our employees have been wearing them proudly all month as they serve customers, some of whom may be battling the disease themselves. 2 brave Long Island Railroad survivors shared their story of hope at the event. Of course, we want to reiterate to all women that in many cases there's a genetic link to breast cancer, which is why it's so important for women to know their family health history in addition to getting screened regularly. To honor the bravery and sacrifice of all those who served, Metro North will again be commemorating Veterans Day in the main concourse of Grand Central on Friday, November 10th at 11 a.m. MTA pipe and drum and uniform personnel will be in attendance, and MTA PD's own Officer James Volpe will sing the Star Spangled Banner. I know Randy is always a big participant there. Neil and Mike sometimes come as well, and a cordial invitation to everyone to join us for this wonderful event. We spoke a little bit about the 20-year needs in the context of the event from this weekend, and there are other Metro North investments that are included in this very important document, which provides a comprehensive, unconstrained view of our system's need rather than restricting it to an arbitrary budget topic. Among the major capital investments, in addition to the Hudson Line resiliency that we've already discussed, are the reconstruction of the Grand Central train shed, the Park Avenue Tunnel and the Park Avenue Viaduct, as well as structural maintenance at 19 Harlem Line stations. On October 12th, we were able to hold our annual Presidents and Team Excellence Awards. Randy was there for that as well as Chairman Lieber and some members of the executive staff. Mike Fleischer was there too. After an exhaustive vetting of all the nominees, we were proud to honor 3 individual employees and 4 outstanding employee teams for their superb performance and dedication to excellence. This year's President's Award winners were April Hickey, who is the Assistant Superintendent, Project Support and Field Administration, Jacqueline Martinez, the Manager of Track Maintenance for the New Haven Line, and Evan Zuccarelli, Senior Director of Operating Rules and Regulatory Practices. There were 4 outstanding groups that took home the Team Excellence Award: the Heroes of the Hudson Line, the Metro North Laser Train Team, the Poughkeepsie Building Renovation Team, and the GCT Station Master's Office and Fire Command Center Renovation Team. Congratulations to all the 2023 honorees. They made me proud. They make all of us proud. Just want to acknowledge 2 retirees. George Monasterio has been the Metro North Chief Architect since 2009, and in that role oversaw house construction projects and figured prominently in restoration efforts at Metro North facilities of Grand Central and other historical significance. John Deptulsky was Deputy Director of Signal Maintenance. He directed signal resources at all yards and wayside right-of-way locations, keeping up with the latest technology to be able to maximize safe and efficient operations. Best wishes to both of them on their retirement. Finally, just want to wrap up with a reference to the Apta Transform Conference in Orlando a couple weeks back. Metro North was recognized with the 2023 Apta Innovation Award for our use of 3D printers to create tools and replacement parts, reducing costs and increasing efficiency. Justin and I were there accepting the award. It was really a great ceremony. We have a very quick video that we did for Apta that we just want to play for you here. When operating a railroad as complex as Metro North, finding replacement parts for our array of equipment isn't always easy. While we've always fabricated some pieces in-house, we've recently taken the process to the next level with the aid of a 3D printer. With the new ability to rapidly prototype, design, and refine new parts, tools, and other solutions, we've just scratched the surface of possibilities for simplifying and optimizing equipment repair processes and affordably testing complex solutions for our system.
So far with the 3D printer, we've worked with a lot of other groups, helping them with their specific needs. For some of it, it's been our maintenance facilities. They are working on specific projects that require either special tooling or they have obsolete parts that they can't get a hold of. And so with the 3D printer, we work with them to make or redesign something that would better match what they are requiring.
The ability to prototype different parts rapidly is definitely a plus. The 3D printer is quick and we can solve problems more easily, more quickly, and more accurately too.
It cuts the time in half. I use it as reference. I could actually put it up against it so that see if it matches, if all the holes are right, so that everything's perfect. That's the only way we roll it. It's got to be done perfect.
We know that our performance directly impacts the quality of life for the communities that we serve. So we're constantly looking for new ways to improve efficiency and deliver even better service. This program has made it easier for everyone to get involved in developing new and innovative solutions, tapping into the wealth of knowledge throughout our organization. In the first year, we've already completed 15 projects, each of which provide ongoing savings to the organization. We would like to thank our employees whose creative solutions and collaboration continue to move us into the future, and APTA for recognizing their efforts with the APTA Innovation Award.
That concludes the Metro North presentation. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And now we move on to Rob's presentation for Long Island Railroad.
Thank you. Good morning. Before I begin, I'd like to express my sincerest gratitude to Kathy Rinaldi for her steady leadership at the helm of the Long Island Railroad over the last 19 months. I am personally grateful for her guidance, dedication, and friendship, and look forward to partnering closely with her on matters that affect both of our agencies. Thank you, Kathy. And I'd also like to again thank the chairman for giving me this tremendous opportunity. I'm happy to begin my debut report as acting Long Island Railroad president with some positive trends that have been taking place of late. Overall, September ridership was up 13% over last September, and we've seen nice ridership growth since we rolled out our current timetables on September 5th. Hampered only by the work train derailment in Queens Interlocking on September 7th and the torrential rains of the 29th. In fact, the past month has produced a slew of post-pandemic records with set a new mark for best one-day total October 12th with almost 249,000 customers. I think we missed it by 26 customers. We twice broke our record for best weekday average and had our two best Fridays as well. And based on loadway data, we had our highest number of AM peak customers to Grand Central Madison and best total AM and PM peak on October 17th. By that measure, the top 5 post-COVID AM peaks have all occurred since Labor Day, as have the 10 best AM peaks to Grand Central Madison. Perhaps even more impressive is the fact that September marked the very first time that non-commutation ridership actually surpassed that of the same month in 2019, besting it by 4.4%. If you remember last month, we were at 97%, so ridership is steadily increasing, particularly on the off-peak periods. Post-Labor Day ridership has been extremely strong, in fact, even stronger than it was before the start of the summer. Our nonstop ridership analysis and all of the methodical scheduling adjustments, big and small, that we've made since the unprecedented 41% service increase from February have produced schedules that made the most sense for riders and improved the customer experience. Boosting on-time performance certainly doesn't hurt either. From Monday, September 11th to the end of the month, our average weekday on-time performance was 94%. This figure incorporates the above-mentioned torrential rains, flooding of September 29th, which brought widespread outages to many areas of the MTA system, including, for a time, our own Far Rockaway and Long Beach branches. And I really want to recognize and thank our employees for their hard work to keep the Long Island Railroad operating through that storm and restoring service quickly where needed. October on-time performance to date is looking even better, and we certainly hope to continue this upward trend. I'm also happy to report we had a perfect AM peak morning September 21st, and that's even with all this increased ridership. Further proof that the schedule adjustments we've made for almost 8 months now are really leading to some positive results for our customers. Our upcoming November 13th schedule changes continue that practice, and customer feedback played a role in a number of those updates. Highlights include 2 additional through trains to Atlantic Terminal in the AM peak, more AM peak Express Port Washington branch service, and 1 afternoon Babylon train that normally operates on early release days will now operate Monday through Friday every week. In the early morning hours of October 23rd, we wrapped up the first of 2 consecutive weekends of support for the replacement of the Mainline 1 and 3 bridge over the Van Wyck Expressway, which is part of a larger ongoing DOT project to widen the expressway. To accommodate the work, several branches operate on an adjusted schedules for both weekends. The Long Island Railroad commenced its own annual leaf fighting program this month. Beginning the week of October 16th, we've been combating low adhesion with 2 special laser outfitted cars to burn pectin from the top of the rail, and will complement them with high pressure washer cars and also wayside sandite applicators for extra traction. We also have 4-wheel truing machines ready to be pressed in service throughout the season. A little later on, you'll hear about the various methods of rail inspections utilized by the Long Island Railroad Engineering Group, who communicate regularly and share best practices with Metro North. The next slide, please. On September 22nd, the Long Island Railroad and MTA C&D celebrated several achievements at the all-new Mineola station. It was a day to officially christen the new facility with its 21st century look and amenities. Mineola Station now boasts widened platforms, new pedestrian overpasses, improved ADA accessibility, modern amenities, and a stunning new art for residents to enjoy. It was also a day to commemorate the station building itself. Now newly remodeled, the building first opened its doors exactly 100 years ago to the day on September 22nd, 1923. And our volunteer historians even arranged for the grandson of the man who purchased the very first ticket sold at the then new station to be on hand for the celebration. Don't ask me how they tracked them down. Also honored that day were acclaimed American artist Donald Lipsky and his remarkable sculpture that'll forever stand watch over Mineola Station. It pays tribute to 2 Long Island pioneers, the first being Bessie Raish, the Mineola resident who started it all for women aviators as the first American woman who credited with piloting an airplane. Atop Bessie's outstretched arm is Roxy, the adorable early 20th century stray puppy who, after being adopted by the Garden City station master, decided he was going to board as many trains as he could, ultimately becoming the mascot of the Long Island Railroad with an official collar that allowed him to sit wherever he wanted, including alongside frequent customer President Teddy Roosevelt. The new modern Mineola station is all part of the broader Long Island Railroad initiative to strengthen the reliability and resiliency of our infrastructure. And the expanded Grand Central Madison scheduling led to a 48% increase in the number of trains that make Mineola stops, and the kind of greatly expanding reverse peak train service that'll boost communities and businesses on Long Island. Another newly modernized station is Westbury, And on September 28th, the Village of Westbury hosted an event with MTA Arts and Design to unveil a series of gorgeous illustrations by New York City artist Darrell Wesley. The series, entitled Illuminations, vividly portrays the past and present histories of the village in 782 square feet of painted glass, which will amaze and uplift the spirits of Westbury customers as they await their trains, hopefully not waiting too long, and provide a colorful, larger-than-life connection to the richness of their hometown. State of good repair is the foundation of any railroad infrastructure planning, especially for one as old as ours. And in the Long Island Railroad portion of the MTA 20-year needs assessment, several elements of our system and infrastructure were mentioned, including the need to rehabilitate the aging Atlantic Avenue Tunnel, along with the replacement or rehabilitation of several bridges and trestles, rolling stock upgrades, completion of our centralized train control system, and upgrades to our signal infrastructure along some 50 miles of right-of-way. Closer to the here and now, we're currently working on immediate upgrades to some stations along the South Shore. As you may recall, ground was broken a few months back on the first 4 of a 9-station package that will deliver significant accessibility upgrades to the stations that need them. Valley Stream is a part of this package, and while work to replace its elevator and escalator won't begin until next year, several capital improvements are either in planning or already underway. These include abating and painting 36 structural columns and 3 railroad bridges within the village and replacement of the platform canopy roof. Work in progress includes enhanced pigeon-proofing and localized structural viaduct repairs. Also ongoing is a system-wide bridge assessment that includes preliminary design of future work that may be needed on the Valley Stream Viaduct. Here's a good news story. Last Thursday, I was proud to join MTA Chairman CEO Jana Lieber, Acting Chief Customer Officer Shanifa Riera, and union leaders Anthony Simon, General Chairman, Smart Transportation Division, and John Murray, Local Chairman, Transportation Communications Union, to honor 5 Long Island Railroad employees who worked together to reunite customer Juliet Barton with a bag she left on one of our trains that just so happened to contain a significant amount of money, $12,000 to be exact. To make a long story short, representatives from our stations and transportation departments, along with the Controller's Office, were able to pull records regarding when and how she bought her train ticket at Babylon Station on Monday the 16th, to determine what train she boarded. Upon speaking to the train crew, who actually reported finding the bag and turning it in as unattended once they arrived in Penn Station. It was then taken to Lost and Found, and the customer was reunited with her bag and her $12,000 the very next day. The very appreciative Miss Barton, who spoke at the event and absolutely stole the show, gushed over how well she was treated by these remarkable Long Island Railroad employees, and I echo her gratitude to employees John Persico, Melissa Shue, Jim Smith, Rob Ryan, and Justin Chesnowitz. Whenever I hear stories like this about our employees, I'm always filled with pride, but never surprised. And these employees are truly representative of the Long Island Railroad. Finally, I'd like to wrap up by welcoming our new Acting Senior Vice President of Operations, Tom Kost, who will be delivering his first operations report. Tom has over 28 years of operational experience at the Long Island Railroad, and Sammy and Neil, he is also a Jets fan. That concludes the President's report. Are there any questions?
Great. Having none, one, I will once again. I'm sorry, Norman.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No swearing this time.
No,
You're very spicy. You've been very spicy today so far.
Did I swear? Yeah. What, asses is a swear?
I had one request, Norman.
Yeah, very, very nice presentation on several levels. And of course, representing the people to give back, actually give back money is, it's unusual for a labor representative. But our understanding of what the system needs changes as a function of our ability to measure the problems. Not much different than any other enterprise the MTA works on. But how is the track geometry cars, as they've become more normalized in the system, how has that changed our understanding of what needs to be worked on? We just talked about the flooded areas, and our members that work in the track area tell us, you know, there's many predictable next accidents, next floods. How is the track geometry car kicking up problems that we were blind to before, or is it not far enough integrated into the system that it's telling us stuff like that yet, and that's something that's yet to come? Where are we at with our ability to measure? And I know I ask confusing questions.
No, your timing's impeccable, Norman. We actually have a presentation on the steps that we both take on inspecting the system, both ultrasonically and visually. It's very highly technical, and we're actually in the process of procuring a new track geometry vehicle, which will be more sophisticated as well. So shortly you'll hear a presentation on how that's accommodated.
We'll say fortuitous coincidence rather than a setup.
Midori?
Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking on this leadership role. Really appreciate that. With the Grand Central Madison changes back in February, I'm interested to know when you're going to do your next kind of customer satisfaction survey. As you know, I'm really interested in hearing more from kind of Brooklyn and Queens riders on what's happening with the shuttle, and do we think that we're in a better space now? I know that you've expanded a little bit of service there on the Brooklyn shuttle. So we'd just love to hear kind of when we can expect to hear a little bit of what is the status quo there. Thank you.
Dory, I can take that. The next biannual customer account survey will go out the door in 2 weeks, and that way we will mine our customers to draw that information.
Okay, and so that means that we might be able to hear something as a board before the end of the year, or are we thinking next year?
Probably the top of the year, because
Okay.
once it comes in, we
Okay.
have to do some back office work.
And do you think there'll be specific questions about kind of how the shuttle is going, or specific targeting around that? Because I know that was just a big issue when it launched, and Rob's been very on top of it, so I really appreciate it.
Yes, they will include some of that information in, as well as other areas.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you, Shanifa. Did you have something to add? Oh. I want to once again thank you, Kathy, for all of your service, handling both railroads. I'm sorry on what should have been your first sleepy weekend. You had mudslides to cope with. And we want to welcome Rob. I will make note, during Rob's, albeit short tenure, 0 jets losses, 0 mudslides on the Long Island Railroad. So welcome. And I'm glad to welcome Tom Cost for your first operations report. Take it away.
Rob, first off, thank you. It was an honor to be asked to be put in the acting senior vice president operations role. Thank you for trusting me with that responsibility. Total on-time performance for September was 92.8%, below goal of 94%. And year-to-date as of September is 93.8%, below goal of 94%. For the month of September, 3 branches operated at or above goal, and year-to-date as of September, 5 branches operated at or above goal. For major events which result in 10 or more late trains, there were 23 incidents for the month of September. The most significant occurred on September 7th, which was a work train derailment in Queens Interlocking. This incident resulted in 229 delays, negatively impacting on-time performance by 0.9%. For our fleet performance, the MDBF for the month of August was 149,131 miles, below goal of 170,000 miles. And MDBF year-to-date as of August is 170,350 miles, above goal of 170,000 miles. There were various issues, but nothing systemic. One component, which was a driver in the MDBF reduction, were analog controller units on the M7 fleet. A supplier had used a sub-supplier who provided defective units. By year's end, all of the equipment will be inspected and the defective units will be replaced. For service delivery, we completed 99.2% of our trips for the month of September, and we completed 99.6% of our trips year-to-date. For upcoming work that will impact service, on the weekend of November 4th and 5th, concrete tie work in the vicinity of Hicksville will take place, impacting schedules on the Huntington, Ronkonkoma, Port Jefferson, and Oyster Bay branches. On the weekend of November 11th and 12th, contractors will be performing ADA work at Copeg Station, resulting in schedule adjustments on the Babylon branch. On Saturday, November 11th, rail replacement and track surfacing work will take place between Great Neck and Port Washington. Buses will replace trains between Great Neck and Port Washington. The November timetable takes effect on November 13th. Please check the website and Train Time app for updated schedules. That concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions? Thank you very much. With that, I want to move back to Kathy for the Metro North operations report.
Yeah, Justin is dealing with the Hudson Line issues this morning, so I'll be delivering the operating report, which begins on page 13 of your book. Our service delivered rate for September was 98.4%. System-wide on-time performance for the month of September was 95.8%, above our goal of 94%. Year-to-date OTP is also above goal at 97.5%. The incident that had the greatest impact to the operation in September was the rain event on September 29th. We already discussed that a little bit. These heavy rains, which led to a state of emergency for the region, caused a key section of track in the Bronx to become completely submerged in water, which affected all 3 lines. This led to a temporary suspension of service to and from Grand Central for more than 7 hours. We quickly implemented our alternative service plan, which is designed for these types of occurrences. This required New York City Transit to cross-honor our fares, which allowed many of our customers to proceed via subway up to stations near Yankees East 153rd Street, Williamsbridge, and Wakefield, and then make their way over to the Hudson, Harlem, and New Haven lines for service north and east of the flooded areas. Flash flooding at Tuckahoe and Ossining, along with a washout at Valhalla, caused further challenges for the operation, but our crews got limited service restored to the Hudson and Harlem lines towards the end of the evening rush on Friday, and full New Haven line service was restored by 6 p.m. By Saturday morning, normal service was provided on all 3 lines. Overall, this single storm event caused nearly 400 delays and cancellations and brought our monthly OTP down by 2 percentage points. I want to take a quick moment to thank all of our employees for their tireless efforts to restore the system as quickly as possible after that major event. Moving on to our fleet, the mean distance between failures for the fleet was nearly 278,000 miles in August, above the goal of 175,000 miles, and year-to-date MDBF performance remains above goal at just over 351,000 miles. Our annual effort to combat slippery rail kicked off this month, and we're hoping to build upon our most successful year yet. With a top speed of 60 miles per hour, the laser train can rid our entire network of leafy residue at least once every 24 hours. It will operate 7 days a week throughout the season. We've also implemented our low adhesion operating procedure along with the typical vegetation management program. We're piloting 2 additional new technologies on the laser train this season. The first is a machine vision LIDAR system, which allows us to better know where and when to turn the laser on and off. The second is a system that will measure the level of contamination on the top of the rail before and after cleaning, which will allow us to track efficacy and deploy additional cleaning assets if necessary. Last year's analysis of slippery rail season showed a 40% reduction in reported slippery events, and we expect that this comprehensive approach this year will produce similar results. This concludes the operating reports. If there are any questions.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions?
Yeah, Kathy, would you briefly touch on how much of an improvement has been in the reduction of trains having to have flat wheels and cause out of service?
Yeah, no, just as 40% last year, so we anticipate a comparable improvement this year, especially with the addition of these new sort of layers onto the laser train technology.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you, Kathy. With that, we'll move on to Metro North Safety Report. Shelley?
So
So good morning. Metro North Safety Report is on page 16 of the Performance Metrics book. First, I want to review where Metro North stands with customer and employee injury rates, comparing the rates for the current 12-month reporting period ending August 2023 to the rates for the prior 12 months ending August 2022. So the reportable customer injury rate decreased from 2.19 to 2.07 per 1 million customers. And the reportable employee lost time injury rate also decreased from 2.13 to 2.01 per 200,000 working hours compared to the prior 12 months. So I want to briefly comment on two outreach efforts. Earlier this month, Metro North Walk teams participated in American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Out of the Darkness walks held at Harbor Island Park in Mamaroneck, New York, and Sherwood Island State Park in Westport, Connecticut. So these walks raise awareness for suicide prevention and promote mental health. And I'm also pleased to announce the launch of Metro North's annual rail safety contest, which is part of our track safety education and outreach program. And I have to begin by thanking and giving credit to our Long Island Railroad colleagues who came up with this concept and were generous enough to share it with us. So this year's contest, Create a Rail Safety Message That Sticks, asks participants to create a rail safety slogan, design, or picture that will be converted into a sticker and handed out at schools, presentations, and other events. So winners will be selected for 4 age groups, and we're really excited to see what students submit. So that concludes my remarks. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Shelley?
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Moving on to Lori for the Long Island Railroad Report.
Good morning, everyone. So our safety report can be found on page 30 of your book. We are at 2.49 per 1 million customers in the reporting period ending August 2023, and for reportable lost time injury rates for employees, we are at 4.51 per 200,000 working hours. Again, to piggyback on my friends at Metro North, we also did a Out of Darkness suicide prevention walk. Ours was yesterday at Jones Beach, and as you all are aware, often we struggle with trespasser incidents on our properties, and we often find that there are mental health or addiction concerns that underlie those, and those, in many cases, intentional acts. Also want to give a shout out to Linda Katz, Chris Ann Fabio, Officer Tom Merkel, and Officer John Matarazzo from the MTA Police for our TRACS program. Our contest this year as well launched October 15th. It ends December 15th. We are Stick With Us. We will safely get you there. Again, the safety sticker, and ask for everyone's help to promote that. What's different this year, I'd like to mention, is we've also made a concerted effort to reach out to homeschool associations, in addition to the 2,900 email blasts that went out to the principals and superintendents. So we want to make sure that those folks and those families know that this contest is also available to them. And happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Any questions? So both, those are great programs. So, Jerry?
Yeah, Lori, can I just ask that you include me in those email blasts? Only because I'm on the board for the Suffolk Region PTA, and I'd be very happy to pass that along. Thank you.
And we thank you so much for your support. We've really seen reap the benefits of that the past couple of years, so we'll make sure you're on those. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. And thank you, Lori. Moving on, Chief Taffy will give our MTA police report.
Good morning, everybody. This is the October 2023 PD report for crime through September 2023. Crime remains low on both railroads for the month of September, with 3 or fewer crimes against riders per district. The crime rate is down from September 22, with major crime hovering around 1 to 2 crimes per 1 million riders. As in the past months, most crime in September is related to larceny from unattended property. And we'd like to thank the authority for running a media campaign on the trains now that reminds riders to secure their property. The department has continued patrol and enforcement efforts with a focus on customer survey data. This include efforts on 125th Street in the Metro North line and Long Beach on the Long Island Railroad line, both who had low customer survey data. In 2024, we will be expanding train patrol to nights and weekends with a focus on quicker runs and extended station inspections. We will also work with the conductors to identify trains with the highest likelihood of quality of life issues. We've also recently, as a precaution, stepped up patrol and increased canine patrol in many districts and high-volume areas. as a method to ensure the safety and security of the members of both railroads. This concludes the October 2023 report on MTA crime in September 23. Thank you.
Board member? Good.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Chief, what's the title? Chief
Chief of Operations.
Chief of Operations. We used to have in our board books a great amount of detail on all the different crime stats, grand larceny and burglary, etc. Given the recent volume of hate crimes that are occurring in the subway system, I'd like to return to have some facts because I feel unprepared as a board member of understanding that. And without putting you on the spot, I don't know if you have those stats handy.
I
right
do.
now.
Hate crime, I have.
Could you-
We actually send it to the board now. After the last few months, we've been sending it.
Okay,
I don't
well,
know
then
if they're
obviously I
inside the
missed my. I'm at the bottom of the alphabetical order. Often I get left off of things, but and it's also possible I missed it. So could you just rattle off for me what's happening in that category, please?
Sure. Let me pull it up real quick.
And I do apologize for putting you on the spot.
That's
there.
all
I'm
right.
sorry.
I had it up and I just pulled it down because I was looking at myself. I think we're at 26 crimes for the year. It's almost all exclusively criminal mischief. There was one or two, which is down significantly from last year. It's not up, and is one or two two harassments and a menacing for the entire year. Let me see if I find the exact numbers.
It's Pat. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we can just, he'll find it and then we'll get
Yeah,
to you.
just shoot it over. I mean, look, as you can imagine, as a New Yorker and a Jew, given what the last couple of weeks has been like, I'm particularly interested in understanding what's happening in the railroad. We'll talk about this, I'm sure, in transit, which I may join today. The incident in the subway of someone being punched in the face and being told because you're Jewish causes my hackles to rise, and I won't give my full speech at this point, but I'm interested in knowing what's going on. Not that I don't care about all groups who are being harassed in our system, but that one in particular is touching me over the last couple of weeks.
There was one for the year. We have one anti-Jewish. There's one anti-Jewish, one anti-black, and one anti-white for the entire year for in the railroads.
At least it's fairly shared.
Jerry?
Yes, sir. When your patrols go to the elevated stations, do they get out of the car and go up and check the upstairs waiting rooms?
Yes, they do. There's two different types. There's park, walk, and talk, as we call it, and there is security inspections. Usually security inspections when they drive around, sometimes go into the yards, and park, walk, and talk is when they actually get out and go into the stations.
Okay,
Sometimes you may see them in the parking lot. They don't get out. That's a security inspection.
Right.
They'll pull it over as such, and then sometimes park, walk, and talk.
Okay, no, I just bring this up because we get occasional reports of homeless camping in the elevated waiting rooms. And now with the cold weather coming upon us, we're going to have more and more of that. So I just want to be sure that your guys are checking. Thank you.
Yes, and we actually, last week, we implemented an overnight plan where the officers have to do an inspection and then fill a form out so we can start to see, exactly who they interact with, if there's any homeless, any ejections, any homeless services given.
Okay, greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Board Member Mack?
Hi, Chief. How are you doing with your recruitment?
Very well, actually.
Good. Let's keep up the number. And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And there's no better deterrent than a uniform.
We're actually swearing in 33 officers on Wednesday.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief. Moving along, we now have a special presentation. Kathy?
Yes, so we originally envisioned both the Long Island Railroad and the Metro North special presentation on their rail inspection programs. Mike Loney is also out at the scene today, so we will not be delivering the Metro North presentation today. We can defer that to another time. But Paul Dietlin and Ed McGoldrick are here to deliver the Long Island presentation.
Good.
Okay, good morning, thank you. So today with me is Ed, of course, and would like to provide the committee with details about our track inspection program. The program's in place to ensure rail safety, track integrity, and reliability of operations. And of course, key to this is a well-established and comprehensive track maintenance and inspection program. So under the Federal Railroad Administration regulations, each railroad has primary responsibility to ensure its track meets or exceeds federal safety standards. This includes qualified inspectors performing track inspections at specified minimum frequencies based on class of track, type of track, and other factors outlined in the safety standard, which is CFR 213. I will note that federal standards define the minimum requirement, and Long Island Railroad has established more stringent maintenance criteria for certain elements. So our comprehensive programs built upon visual inspections, track geometry inspections or measurements, and internal rail flaw detection. I'll also note that the FRA regularly reviews and audits our compliance with the requirements. At this point, I'll turn it over to Chief Engineer McGoldrick to speak in more detail about the inspections we perform.
Thank you, Paul. Visual inspections are performed weekly on all mainline tracks. The inspection takes place by physically walking the track to detect defects in rails, cross ties, or track bed conditions. In some instances, high rail vehicles are used to support inspections. On a monthly basis, all mainline switches, 692, are inspected jointly by the Track and Signal Department. The inspection verifies all components are in working order and each switch operates as intended. In accordance with FRA regulations, the Signal Department performs additional testing of the switch machine and associated signal system components. Similarly, yard and secondary tracks are visually inspected on a monthly basis. In all cases, defects must be corrected within a prescribed period of time based on the type of defect, generally immediately or potentially up to 30 days. The Long Island Railroad also uses a track geometry vehicle to monitor our track safety. Track geometry vehicles use onboard sensors and measuring systems to perform a comprehensive inspection of various track geometry characteristics, which is reviewed and analyzed by Long Island Railroad engineering staff. Some of these measurements are gauge, profile, and alignment characteristics, as well as clearances for platforms. Any exceptions are noted and corrected by our field forces within a prescribed time frame. The Long Island Railroad has owned its own track geometry vehicle, or TGV, since 1975, originally called the TC-80. The Long Island Railroad operates its TGV over the entire system multiple times per year. Mainline tracks are tested quarterly, and yard and secondary tracks are tested semi-annually. The Long Island Railroad is currently developing our fourth generation of track geometry vehicle to replace our current TC-82. The contract was just awarded, and the TC-83 is expected to be delivered late 2025. It will incorporate state-of-the-art technologies to inspect and monitor our track infrastructure. In addition to the Long Island Railroad inspections that are performed, the FRA does have an oversight function which they perform. The FRA performs random, short-notice visual inspection of Long Island Railroad track infrastructure and signal system, as well as inspections of documentation and audits to make sure those inspections are occurring appropriately. The Long Island Railroad fully supports the opportunity to inspect our infrastructure with the FRA. The FRA also manages their own fleet of track geometry vehicles and performs their own independent testing and assessment of Long Island Railroad infrastructure. The FRA generally attempts to schedule their track geometry car inspection once per year, and the last geometry car inspection performed on the Long Island Railroad was in May of 2023. Additionally, the Long Island Railroad does internal rail flaw detection using ultrasonic technology through, currently the vendor is Sperry that performs that testing for us. The ultrasonic testing gives us the ability to detect internal defects that aren't visible to the naked eye that are occurring within the rail. And rail defects can develop in any type of rail or welds as a result of several different conditions. They could be from an original manufacturing defect to a cyclical loading to impacts from rolling stock and rail wear. Once a defect is detected on a section of rail, it is immediately replaced. We perform our ultrasonic rail testing on a continuous basis, covering the entire system 3 times per year. Once we complete one testing cycle, we begin a new testing cycle. Lower speed tracks, such as Class 1 and Class 2 tracks, are tested semi-annually. Of note, the Long Island Railroad was the first commuter railroad to adopt the continuous testing process along in conjunction with the FRA. Working closely with the FRA, we implemented the continuous testing program in 2018 after several months of coordination and planning with the FRA. In the end, I'll say the Long Island Railroad devotes a significant portion of its capital program to track infrastructure, state of good repair programs, and these capital investments, along with a comprehensive track maintenance and inspection program, are critical to a safe and reliable rail infrastructure.
Good, terrific. We hear about all the incidents and we pay a lot of attention to them, but it's great to know how much attention is going into preventing incidents. So thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions? Jerry?
Not so much on the rail, but on maintenance of way. What is the current cleanup program on that? We see a lot of debris along the rails in various locations. I understand in the past they were going to incorporate that into contracts for anyone who was doing work on our rail system that they had to clean up after themselves. But we're still seeing, the plastic buckets, all sorts of debris, and eventually if that debris ever gets onto the tracks, it's going to create a problem. What is our current situation with that?
So currently, we have a practice where we do follow along behind our work and clean up, remove materials. We call it take it in, take it out. At times, due to the track time constraints and finishing up work at the end of an outage, some does get left behind. We try to circle back regularly through the system with our right-of-way task force to clean up these areas. But it can be challenging, significant resource intensive effort at times. But we've recently started a more comprehensive program in the Jamaica area and out through Queens, and we'll continue to expand our way as we continue our vegetation cleaning process.
Yeah, that's where you kind of see it, particularly because the trains slow down as they're coming to Jamaica, and you're looking out the windows, and that's where you're seeing a lot of the, not that it doesn't happen elsewhere, but that seems to be a major sticking point.
I think some of the things you see in Jerry are actually storing supplies out there. You might see some rail out there or some components, because don't forget, like whole interlocking, for instance, in Jamaica is almost 2 miles long, give or take. So, God forbid something happens, they have to respond. You don't want to have them go all the way back to a truck or some central location and pick up some supplies. So some things are left intentionally along the right-of-way for a better response in the event there is an issue.
Okay. Any other questions? Moving along, I'm going to thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask Kathy to report on both joint information items and Metro North information items.
Okay, thank you. So the only joint information item is the Long Island Railroad Metro North PTC implementation update, which is in your book. If there are any questions. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the Metro North information items. The first is the 2024 preliminary budget, just for informational purposes. The second is the October schedule change, which I alluded to in my remarks. It also includes the holiday programs through the end of the year. The third is the track program quarterly update. And the fourth and the fifth are items that are going to finance. This is really just for your informational purposes only. The ADA improvements is a condemnation matter associated with upcoming improvements at Williamsbridge Station. And the last item encompasses some real estate items in the terminal. The committee has always taken some interest in the tenancies in the terminal, so those information items are in there just for your knowledge. And that concludes the Metro North information items.
Terrific. Any questions? Rob, could you take us to the Long Island Railroad information items?
As well, the 2024 preliminary budget is in the book. The November timetable change and track work programs, as we discussed briefly before, are in the book as well. The MW quarterly update is in the book as well. in addition to the finance reports, are all in the book.
Terrific, which we'll go right into, given the time. Rob, if you want to give your finance report, and then Kathy, I'll ask you to give Metro North finance report.
They're just in the book in case
Oh,
there's
they're
any
in the book?
questions. Yep,
Okay.
Yep. And there's
Great.
no procurement.
No procurement. Unless anyone has anything to add, I'll put forth a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second. All in favor? Great, thanks you.